So here we are. We started our first English language interview with Amra from Bosnia. How are you today?
Hello, I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Had a long day, full of work. Basically, we're going to talk about your experiences about. Well, you've been in a lot of countries regarding studies and work, and you are currently located in London as a software developer.
Yes.
So I think it would be great if we could go on in a chronological order as the first country you visited. Well, you were you born and raised in Bosnia?
I was raised in Bosnia, yes.
Yeah.
Uh, I sorry, I did start, well, where do I start? In the first country you said.
Yeah.
I studied history of art and history in Bosnia for 4 years, after which I decided I wanted to go into life sciences, which is a bit of an unusual choice. Usually people do it the other way around, start with life sciences, go into humanities afterwards. But I just really wanted to study abroad. And, it's not that easy to find a scholarship. It's not easy to find money to go abroad to live. I took some time off. I worked for a couple of years in an administrative job for a non-governmental organization. During that time, I was kind of getting more into the idea of living abroad, and I started preparing to go somewhere. I tried to learn German. That went well, but I didn't learn well enough to be able to study in German. Somehow I found this program in Greece, in Thessaloniki, which was in English, a language I could already speak, and they were giving scholarships for the students from the Balkan countries. It was an agro-environmental course, so it was like an agroecology. Basically, we did a lot of so I applied and I got accepted, and I was fortunate enough to get a partial scholarship and a job on campus to finance my studies.
Yeah. Okay. At what age did this happen? How old were you at this time?
I was already 25. Yeah, 25 when I moved.
25. So you were 25 when you first moved abroad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where did you learn English? You said your English was quite prepared by the time you moved to Greece.
Well, I don't know. I've kind of always had English classes my whole life, and as a child, well, I don't know. English has always been around. My parents had friends from abroad who'd come to visit. I would speak English to them. I was part of a drama group, so I traveled a bit around Europe. I used English then. Watched a lot of films. We use subtitles in Bosnia, so we do hear a lot of English when we watch American and UK films. So yeah, more or less.
Yeah? Did your parents fully support you with your decision that you wanted to move abroad?
Yes, they did. They were very supportive.
That's great, actually. And
both are quite travelers themselves, so they know what it's like to want to see the world.
Yeah, great. Open-minded parents are the best. It's my opinion as well.
Grateful.
So altogether, how long did you spend in Greece?
3 years. So I did a full Bachelor of Science there.
Wow, that's a pretty nice amount of time. Did you also learn Greek?
Oh well, yeah. Well, some basic Greek. By the end of my stay, I could already speak some, like, make basic conversation. But because the studies were in English, and I was an international college, we had a lot of, I mean, we were from different countries, so we used English between ourselves. I didn't really get to learn much Greek, but I did kind of pick it up. Yeah, but since then, I think I just forgot most of it, sadly. But it is a beautiful language.
Yeah, I know. I used to work with Cyprians because I lived in Australia, in Melbourne,
Yeah.
and yeah, they taught me a few words. Obviously, the not so nice words, but yeah, I really like Greek people. They're really warm-hearted, and loud, very loud.
Lovely people, yeah, they're very, very warm and friendly. I agree, and it's a really nice language. Very complicated, very, very poetic. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it was a good skill to have. I'm sad I don't remember it anymore, but one day I might go back to it, like everything else.
Yeah, sure. So you said you needed to prepare financially yourself to be able to support yourself to move there. Could
Yes,
you please
sorry.
could you please tell me a few sentences about this and how you maintained yourself in Greece? What were the biggest difficulties you encountered?
Yes, so we had the option to stay on campus. It was like um, it was a small school with a campus outside of the city, and the students could stay there, and which kept our costs quite low. Also, my the partial scholarship I got was partially cover the fees and partially the accommodation and food. Also I had a part-time job, so I worked for the registry, student registry. I was an assistant there, and I also worked during the summer at a laboratory. I was an assistant there. Then last year I did teaching. I became a teaching assistant, so I would help the lecturers prepare the like exercises and for the first year students. So when I was third year student, I was helping students also with their essays. I would check them out, correct them, return them. Yeah, things like that. So I had a combination of different small part-time jobs, and together with the scholarship, that basically was it.
That's really nice, actually. And how often did you have the opportunity to go home to visit your parents and family, friends?
Well, relatively often. We had Christmas break, and then after that we would have something called semester break, because semester would end beginning of February, or no, sometimes end of January, something like that. So there were 2 winter breaks, and then there was Easter break, and then the summer. Well, the summer I would briefly go home and mostly work in Greece. As a student, I had a right to work part-time during the school year and full-time during the summer.
Okay. Did you visit any nice places nearby? For example, the Greek islands, or even Turkey, or
Oh, sadly,
Cyprus?
yeah, because I didn't have much money, and I had a lot of the studies and the work took too much of my time. I didn't get to travel much, but I did go on a couple of school trips too. We went to Meteora.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that was wonderful. We went to with a couple of friends, went to northern Greece. Well, in the very north of Greece, because Thessaloniki is also north. Also, Halkidiki, the peninsula, is 3.
Hmm.
I don't know, you probably know the 3 peninsulas. It's that's quite close to Thessaloniki, so that's somewhere where we would go for the beach. And yeah, I don't know where else. I don't think I've traveled much, no. But yeah, it's a wonderful country.
Yeah, I bet I've never been to Greece, so that's on my bucket list as actually. Um, did you learn with international students, or mostly with Greeks? I'm not sure.
There was a lot of Greeks, but there was quite a lot of students from different Balkan countries, um, like ex-Yugoslavian countries. There were a couple of Americans, because there was like a exchange program with some U.S. universities. We also had students from Kenya, from Nigeria, from Kyrgyzstan, yeah. A couple of Germans, Romanians, Bulgarians. Yeah, I don't think we had any Hungarians. Yeah.
Uh, well, I only met one Hungarian when I studied in Australia as well, so we're not that common in the world. But yeah, maybe in England we are. And One question I really wanted to ask is, how was medical service when you got ill? How did you go? What was the procedure of going to the doctor? And
Well, because we were on a campus and it was a small school. It was quite a close community. There were people who were in charge of the students' accommodation and life on campus. So they would help us if we were unwell or if there's anything wrong. They would make sure that everything's going fine, that there are no problems between students or on campus or any sorts of
okay,
yeah.
I see. That's
We were
quite
unwell.
simple.
They would take us to the doctor. We also had a student interns. Some of the exchange students would do that. They would be like in charge, like they would have shifts, things like that. They would be in charge of the dorms and making sure that we don't party too loud and things like that. So yeah, if we would get ill, they would be the ones to go to. Which so yeah, in a way, my life in Greece was quite protected in that sense because we were um, we were taken care of. I mean, we would there were meals, regular meals. There was a gym we could go to. There were activities. There was so yeah, it was kind of like an American style college campus, but on a smaller scale.
Yeah, from what you say, that's what I experienced totally. I mean, I'm sorry, that's what um,
Imagine.
imagine. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
That's what I imagined completely.
Something like
But
that.
3 years. It was 3 years there. What was your best and your worst experience?
Hmm. Uh, I'm not sure. Well, the best was, I guess, getting close to some of the people that became my best friends. I didn't expect I would make a lot of friends when I first went there because I thought, oh, everyone is going to be so much younger than me, which they were. Not everyone. There were still students my age and even older than me, but mostly they were younger than me, which is expected. But that, yeah, it's odd. I mean, I had this crazy idea of I'll just won't be able to make friends.
Well, basically, so this was your first time abroad. What were the first days like? The first week or first month? How did you feel? How could you recall those feelings?
It was just really strange. When I got there, I was one of the first students on campus. There were very few because I got there earlier because of I think some placement exam I had to take. I don't remember. Yeah, it was very strange. It was very beautiful. The location of the place is just wonderfully beautiful, like big gardens and nice houses, and there's a farm that is part of the whole school complex. But there's an agricultural, the secondary school and the college uh, that issues university degrees. Can't remember really. Yeah, I remember everything being really beautiful, but also very confusing because I was just it was odd to be in a to live in dorms after. I mean, I've been in dorms when I was younger during my secondary school, but high school, but it was just briefly during some summer programs, like summer schools and things like that. But now I was going to be living in a dorm with people I don't know for 3 years. That was a bit strange. And yeah, it turned out to be great. I can't remember what was the worst thing. It just I guess it was a lot of hard work and also having to work and study at the same time. Yeah, it required some time management, which is sometimes
Yeah,
some good time management skills, which is it's also yeah, it's hard, especially if you're living with other students and there's a lot of noise, lots of things going on.
yeah, I did the same, so I totally understand what you're saying. Okay, and I think we pretty much talked about Greece.
Yeah,
What was your next country?
it was Belgium. I went to the city of Ghent or Ghent. I think that's how you pronounce it over there. I it was an Erasmus Mundus master program. I got a scholarship because I had very good results in Greece, and plus with the experience I managed to get through the lab work and the teaching work, I got a scholarship to go to Ghent to study this interesting discipline called nematology. Because during my years in Greece, I got very much interested in entomology, protection of plants, plant protection, insects, so insects, worms, all these creatures, and also soil ecology, which is something I thought I was gonna do more. So I decided to go for this worm master, which was a bit unusual choice. And to this date, I have to explain to people how that how that happened, and what kind of a discipline that is, and what kind of people study that at a master's level. But yeah, it was wonderful. So I got this scholarship, and but they have a rule if you've lived. So I'm not from an EU country. I'm from Bosnia, which is not an EU. So we're treated as overseas, or whatever the term is. But with Erasmus Mundus has this clause that if you've lived in an EU country for a longer period of time prior to doing the masters, then you're treated as EU. So you can't get the non-EU scholarship, and the EU scholarship is much smaller. So it was about 500 euros a month, which, yeah, maybe in Greece would barely be enough, but in Ghent it wasn't really wasn't a lot.
Okay.
So yeah, that was it. But yeah, I managed somehow to live on that money. I had some savings as well, so it was all right. But yeah, Ghent was wonderful. It's one of the nicest places that I've ever visited.
This was basically 1 year you spent there, yeah, the masters.
The master's was 2 years out of so 3 semesters I spent.
3 semesters. Okay, 2 years.
One semester was in Germany because it was Erasmus Mundus, so you have to change universities as part of the deal. Yeah, so Ghent is wonderful. I don't know. I can't recommend it highly enough as a city to study in, especially because it's an incredibly good university, and there's a massive international student community there. There's a lot of international programs, and it's a beautiful city with so much going on.
So what made you decide to go to Belgium from Greece?
Well, I really wanted to do a master's in, as I said, in either of these disciplines, something to do with plant protection, something to do with insect science, entomology, or yeah. So I looked for different courses and options of scholarships, and I applied to different places, and some places I got accepted, but I just couldn't afford to go. So, but I really liked this program in Belgium because it was somehow, yeah, it was very interesting. It covered a lot of very basic biological disciplines and skills. If I can explain, I can say that way. But through this particular group of organisms. So it was kind of like you get a really solid biological training by focusing on one group of organisms. If that makes sense.
Of course, it does make sense. It's specialized, basically.
Yeah, it was very specialized, but at the same time, it wasn't. We learned a lot of the oh god, I got solid biological foundations as well, because my bachelor was not, well, it was more like applied sciences, and there was a bit of management as well. But yeah, it wasn't yeah, it wasn't a fundamental science, which is something that I was lacking. That's why I was grateful the program was devised the way it was. So yeah, that was the Ghent story.
And regarding Belgium, your best and worst experience, if you could tell me?
I guess not having money was probably the worst. it was just really everything was really expensive. I mean, Belgium as a country is not expensive. It's just 500 euros. It's not a lot. Yeah, and but Belgium was lovely. Yes, I think I got the best out of it. As I said, the city was the best thing about it. Ghent, and again, friends I made.
Well, you went there alone.
Yeah, I went there alone.
Yeah, and Greece as well.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I did the same in Australia, and I made friends on the go. Okay, and how did you decide to move on to the next stage of your life, and what was that?
So it was a highly scientific master's, the one I did in Belgium, and while there, wasn't really sure. It was just preparing me for a career or researcher. As somehow I started heading in that direction. Everything was about research. There was a lot of little projects that we were doing. My master thesis was loads of fun. I really enjoyed doing it, and I thought, I guess I should become a researcher. So it was the next logical step to go into to do a PhD. And I applied to different places, and I was very fortunate to get a scholarship for another Erasmus Mundus, but this time for a PhD. And that's how I got to London in 2014. It was also an ecological topic. Yeah, I got here and started my PhD. But that was just after I finished the master's, so it kind of happened really quickly. I went straight to do a PhD after the master's.
Okay,
That's something I would recommend now, looking back on it.
sorry, I didn't catch that. You wouldn't recommend.
Well, I wouldn't recommend to my former self. I would just go.
Why?
I think I should have taken a break, just work for a couple of years and then see how it goes, rather than just continue studying, because that already there was quite a lot of studying. If you do the math, I've just studied for a really long time, and looking back now, I can't even remember how I had the energy.
Yeah, so by the time you got to London, you had been learning for 5 years. So
Yeah, without counting those years I spent in Sarajevo studying, so
that's
quite a lot of studying. Yeah.
it sounds pretty overwhelming, including studying and working as well.
Yeah, it was. It was. I'm aware of it now. At the time, it just seemed like, okay, I need to do this, because I had this crazy drive. We didn't have a clear vision of what it is that I wanted to do, because I was interested in so many things at the same time, and I was it was all a set of, somehow the external conditions were helping me make decisions more than anything else, and I was kind of jumping on on every, can't explain. I don't know.
Every opportunity, or
Yeah, I was just taking the opportunities as they would come. I was also actively pursuing them, but at the same time, I wouldn't get necessarily fully committed to one specific idea. If one master's didn't work out, if I wouldn't get a scholarship, I'll be okay. I'll do this instead. You see what I mean?
I 100% understand what you. I can see what's going on through your mind. So I think I experienced the same thing.
It's just I think there's a certain type of people who chase these sort of experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and I've encountered some of them during my studies as well as during work. Through work. It does get overwhelming, yes. And I'm not, now looking back, I'm not at all surprised that I just couldn't do the PhD. It was just too much, I guess.
Okay. Well, that's where you are now, and this is how you got there. So
Yeah,
you
exactly.
have a lot of experience, which you just learned from. One question I think it's important: the visa question. Did you Did you need a visa to the UK or even Belgium or Greece?
Yeah, I needed a visa for each of these countries because I was living there. So I in order to live in any of the countries of the EU, I need a visa. So I was on student visas.
Mhm.
That
Was it
wasn't.
was it hard to get these visas?
No, no, it was okay. I basically the only thing, yeah, what was yeah, I just had to have some savings for Belgium because 500 a month wasn't enough as a proof of finances. So I had to add some savings on top of that, but it wasn't a lot. So it was okay. I managed to save that before. And so yeah, basically what you need to do as a student, you have to have a student status and you have to prove that you are able to sustain yourself. If you're on a scholarship and it's a full scholarship, then that's fine. That's proof enough. But if it's a partial scholarship or not sufficient, then you need to top it up a bit in advance.
Which visa was the hardest to get?
Uh, none of them were hard to get. I think the UK one was the scariest because it's just really a really complicated procedure.
Probably like Australian, I guess.
Yeah, but then yeah, probably something like that. I heard that Australian is difficult to get. I mean I fulfilled all the criteria so for a student visa, so I knew, you know, there was no reason for me not to get it, but it was a bit scary. It was just a bit intimidating, the whole process. But I mean, there's no reason if one fulfills criteria, then there's no reason to worry. They're pretty clear about what they want, so that's,
And you said you started your PhD in 2014.
yes.
How did you proceed?
Yeah, I did PhD for about less than a year, but I did part of my research work. I did a big sampling campaign because I had to do some river sampling. I forgot to say that. I sampling for different organisms that live in riverbed. Not to go into details of what my topic was. I had to take some classes while I was there, and sometimes in the spring. So I started in autumn, in the spring 2015. I started feeling that this wasn't what I wanted to do, and I just felt really tired, and I just started feeling like it would be impossible for me to continue. And I talked to my supervisors; they were very kind, and I it took a couple of months to fully resolve that. And by the end of the academic year, I decided to quit. That was not an easy decision, but yeah, fortunately during that period, I discovered my new love of coding, which was a bit unexpected, and which led me to where I am now. Yes, it was quite unexpected because I never in my life considered that as a career.
Well, looking back now, do you think it was a good decision to quit and start following what you're doing at the moment?
Yes, yes, it was a good decision. I wasn't a good PhD student. I just wasn't good at it. I could feel that I wasn't. I was just really tired. I just wasn't giving much. I wasn't giving as much as I could give. And
And we can say you follow your heart, yeah?
yeah, yeah, I did. I did. It was. Yeah, I don't know what it was that I followed, but I something. There was a calling. I don't know. I just felt like this was the way to go. Even though it was quite scary because I didn't have. It didn't look like I had an alternative because it wasn't like I already knew how to code and I had a job offer, so I could quit PhD and go do the job I was.
How did this coding come to your life? And how could you increase your knowledge to such level to make a living from it?
Coding came to my life through this research work because um, at the end of my master studies, I had to do because my master thesis and PhD thesis were both highly. They contain a lot of statistical analysis because they were ecology. In ecology, there's a lot of statistics, especially community ecology, which was my PhD topic. And I started doing some R. Just started learning R language, which is used a lot in statistical analysis and data science. It's quite big. I also stumbled upon some Python, and I quite liked it. I just did a little bit of learning, not much. Just thought it would be useful for me to learn. If I was going to be an ecologist, I wanted to know how to do my own analyses. And somehow while doing that, I just started enjoying it more and more. And then I started reading about it, found loads of online courses. I saw I could make little games. I thought that was fun. And I was really, really lucky that at the moment, well, 3 years ago, and I guess still, there's a big what's the word, movement here in London.
Yes.
To increase the diversity in tech industry. So there's a lot of programs to encourage women to do software development.
This field has a great future, I can say. So
definitely, it was one of the reasons why I knew this wasn't such a stupid decision to make was because I knew that the profession itself got such a big potential.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I did a couple of courses. I started with some workshops, and I did some courses because there's a lot of free events, free courses for women. And I started talking to people who were doing it. There was a lot of career changes, a lot of people who came from very different backgrounds and ended up doing this. So the community itself was quite supportive, and that helped a lot. Because when I first got into it, I thought everyone's going to be a computer science graduate who's going to tell me that I'm being silly and there's no way I can just get into it. But actually, nobody ever said that to me. Not even my friends who do have computer science degrees. So that helped a lot. Yeah, and I did some courses, and by the end of the year, I started applying for jobs. I tried to get into graduate schemes because those are the ones where you're trained on the job. So I don't know if this exists in Hungary. It's like big companies, like banks or financial institutions.
Training on the go, and then they pay you while they train you.
Yeah, exactly. You get it's a job. It's like an entry-level job.
Yeah, it exists, but it's completely out of my field what I do. But as far as I know, it exists.
So yeah, that's something I tried to do. I had a couple of interviews. I got to two jobs. I almost got to I got to the end of the process, which was great. Yeah, surprisingly, but what they were looking for was the drive and enthusiasm and willingness to learn. And
did you research the companies you enrolled to, or did you do it on a random sort of thing?
Oh no, yeah, I researched everything. I'm pretty much a nerd, as you can tell. I'm very if I'm doing something, I treat it as a serious project, and each one of these applications was thoroughly researched, and at that time it was the most important thing in my life, finding a job. So I was quite that. And
you look very happy now, and that's what you should pursue.
Thank you. I am. I'm very happy. Yes, it's a great job. I work with a great team. It's a small team. We get to do all sorts of different things. Even when I was the most junior, my boss would give me quite a lot of freedom to build.
Okay, so it's a flexible job you have, basically. Well, sort of.
Yeah, it's flexible in terms of we have space, freedom to learn and to grow. We're not too tight. Well, obviously we have our roles. We know where our strengths are and what we specialize in within the team. But still, if I come to my boss and say, actually, I want to do more front end work, they'll be like, okay, cool. Well, let's see what kind of projects we have where there's some front end work to do. And
Okay, that's great.
nice, yeah, it is.
When you shifted from your PhD studies, you did side jobs. And so how did you maintain a living when you shifted from your PhD studies to coding and you got your first paying job? Did you have a hard time making a living or making ends meet?
No, I'm very good at saving. So I saved money, and just before I got my
Did you reduce traveling, or did you reduce like living a sort of luxurious life, or how did you manage?
Oh, but it wasn't luxurious at all. And yes, I didn't travel. Just kept a very low profile until I.
Yeah, very good. So you did what you had to do. You were determined, and you're reaching your goals, I would say. You said it's a very interesting topic because you said you worked remotely as well.
Yes, I worked remotely from the beginning of my work at this company.
So how did it work? Because I'm not sure how it goes. You can travel while you work, or
So I was contracted. So I was in trial period, and then it extended to a long term, well, longer contract. I went back to Bosnia and I worked
okay.
well, basically that was it. And then I did some traveling during these 2 years before moving back here. Well, almost 2 years. So throughout that time, I worked remotely as a contractor, so I wasn't a permanent employee.
What countries did you visit while you were working remotely?
Well, I was based in Bosnia, so that's where I'm resident, which is where I lived. But I traveled fairly around Europe in the first year, and then when I got a little bit better and more confident in what I was doing, I went to Korea, which was quite far away, and
Wow.
the time difference is a killer. And then at the end of my remote experience, at the time when I figured out that I was probably going to be coming back to London, I decided to go to South America for a bit, and yeah, a couple of countries in South America: Bolivia, Chile, and Ecuador. I just had to take that opportunity. I couldn't miss it.
That's my dream to go to South America, especially Peru.
Oh yeah, well, I haven't been to Peru. I kind of jumped over it because of visa. I needed to get a visa. But Bolivia, Chile, and Ecuador, I visited those three, so they were kind of around. But yeah, Peru, I hear the nicest things about it. It must be beautiful. These three countries were amazing. If you
Yeah,
haven't,
how much time did you spend in Korea and in these countries in South America?
yeah, for about a couple of weeks each.
Did you have your own decision where you wanted to go, or did you follow orders, so to say, of your company where you have to be based?
No, there wasn't such rule for them. For them, what the hours available, and that I would do my job. That was it. They didn't. For them, it didn't make a difference if I was in Bosnia
Oh,
or
that's pretty cool. So you thought you wanted to live in Korea, you wanted to experience Far East, and you moved to Korea to work a bit, and then you.
just I didn't move there. I just spent a couple of weeks.
Okay, well, you spend a bit of time there.
Yeah, well, I like the idea of this remote work of digital nomading. I read a lot about it, and and I thought, okay, maybe I could just try it, and it was quite hard to do. It's hard to work while traveling. It's not something I could do for a really long time, but it's something that I recommend as for a brief period of time. It's good. Also, I opted for countries that are not. I didn't go for the obvious digital nomad destinations such as Thailand and Bali, which is where all the digital nomads go. Korea is getting there. I think it's going to be a big one as well. It just has a bit of a colder climate, but it's a lovely place. And it's South America is great. But yeah, where I went is not known to be a digital nomad destination. Most of the digital nomads go to Colombia, to Medellin. There are certain hotspots nowadays where people tend to kind of congregate. But this was cool because I didn't really need to go somewhere where I'm gonna hang out with other developers. I wanted to see different places. That was it.
On average, how many hours do you work a week while remote working?
Well, I worked full time.
Okay, so basically 40 hours a week, you had to be available.
Yeah, yeah. I would.
Well, yeah. Well, in Korea, the time shift was probably a hard
Yeah,
thing to get used to.
in the afternoon and then work late, and then in the morning I would just walk around in places. Obviously, I didn't manage to see everything I wanted to see because I wasn't there a tourist. I was just someone who was staying there and trying to see a little bit. So yeah, it's a it's an odd concept because when you go to a new place, you expect to you kind of want to see everything, but
Yeah, I know. That's why when I finished my life in Australia, I took some time off to travel New Zealand and Nepal, and then all I did was just traveling. So I understand. Um, so altogether, you spent a few months or even half a year working remotely?
remotely, yeah, almost 2 years.
Oh, almost 2 years. Great. Yeah. Did you encounter any difficulties that you were not expecting?
Um, well, at first I was, mm, well, sometimes the internet will be dodgy, but that's something to think ahead of. You have to be prepared for these kind of things.
Probably South America was dodgy, wasn't it?
No, I mean Bolivia is. They say the Wi-Fi is a bit unreliable, but the mobile data is quite cheap, so that's what I did. I just bought a lot of mobile data.
And when you tried to get around, was English enough, or do you speak any other languages, by the way?
I speak some French and some Spanish and a little bit of German.
Okay, so well, in South America, except Brazil, they only speak Spanish.
Yeah, it really helps if you can speak some Spanish, but even a little will do. I mean, people are nice there, and if you can speak a little bit of Spanish, you can get around. I think. I mean, my Spanish is really poor. I know just the basics, but I used it everywhere I went. And in the larger cities, young people also often speak English. Like, well, I met a lot of people who could speak English. And
Yeah.
mostly stayed in larger cities because I couldn't just go into the wild during the weekdays. Wild, I mean, as not wild, but I mean like the countryside.
Yeah, I have some friends who lived in South America, so I've heard some stories as well, going to the wild.
No,
And
it's countryside. But yes, some of the countryside I visited was in the wild, like in the rainforest.
it's great experience. And now you are in London permanently.
Well, hopefully, I don't know. Well, I now I'm on a work visa. That we'll see how that goes.
What was the procedure of getting the work visa, and are you aiming to get the permanent residency visa?
I'm aiming to extend my current work visa because it's
Okay.
I got it for a year, and I planning to extend it for a couple more years. But yeah, I don't know how that will go, and I don't really know. I don't have any further far-reaching plans about that. The procedure was quite a difficult one. It's probably one of the toughest countries in the world to get to come to work for people who are not from the EU, because and it's getting more and more difficult. That's what I heard. Yeah, because there's a lot of people. There's a big demand, and there's a cap of there's a number of um, these certificates that are issued every month, and more people apply than or more people are eligible than they can issue. So yeah.
What would you recommend for Bosnians or even people from the Balkans or even Eastern Europe who want to move to the UK and they're not part of the European Union? How should they prepare themselves?
I'm not sure. I think probably going to study somewhere is a good way to go. I would definitely recommend first studying in a place rather than heading for for job. Also it helps if you not helps you have to have a job offer already before you move here. I think the UK is quite hard to go to. I was really lucky because I was already here, and that helped a lot. And I came here as a student, so although that wasn't this course of course of action, events sequence of
Hmm.
my plan. It was just somehow happened like that. But yeah, turned out that it's easier to move to work if you're a student. So I
Basically, Brexit, like Great Britain exiting the European Union, will not have any difference or influence on you.
I'm not really sure. I really don't know. It's possible it could have because I think if less of the EU citizens are moving here, and there may be less of them coming here because of Brexit, it's possible that there'd be because there's a higher demand. There's a high demand for foreign workers, especially in some industries. It's possible that there will be a bigger demand for workers from outside of the EU, in which case it'll be harder to get a visa. So
Well, yeah.
that's one of the theories I read about in the news, but I really don't know. I don't think anyone knows how this is gonna go.
Okay, Amra. It was really nice talking to you about all your experience, and you you were really helpful. Um, One last question: which country was your favorite among all?
Oh, it's so hard.
You could, all of them.
I could say all of them. Yeah, every country I visited is wonderful in its own right, and yeah, I enjoy seeing new places. It's just I it it's not that easy for me to dislike a place, so I can't really decide. I do love London. London is amazing. The great thing about London is that you can find all sorts of cultures here. So I guess kind of yeah, a little bit of everywhere here in London. I don't know. It sounds a bit cheesy. I can't decide. Sorry, it's too difficult.
No, that's okay. It's a really good question as well. You don't need to decide if you can't.
No, I just can't. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate your time. You were great interviewing, and you answered everything possible, and you gave a great picture about living, studying, working abroad. Um, I wish you all the best, of course, and I'm sure you will succeed because that's from what the near last hour, what you told me um, means that you have a great attitude and there's no other way for you to proceed. So talk soon, yeah, and take care of yourself. Thanks very much again for your time, and have a great night.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the very kind words.
Thanks very much. See ya.
Okay.
Bye.